Warringah has the call.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. I move the motion as circulated in my name. The motion outlines the need for a comprehensive approach to reform of the Australian parenting policies. Today, the Parenthood Group and Equity Economics released a report titled "Making Australia the Best Place in the World to be a Parent," an ambitious but important goal. The report highlights the economic and social benefits of the policy proposals, including an estimated increase to GDP of 4.1%, or some $166 billion by 2050. And if we can get female workforce participation up to the same level as male participation, GDP would increase up to 8.7%, some $353 billion. There are 2.6 million families in Australia with dependent children under the age of 15. In Warringah, we have 20,000 of those families, and many have told me of the need for a more supportive approach, that there is a disincentive to returning to work due to the cost of childcare and discrimination experienced in the workplace. So a more consistent and supportive approach to parenting strategy in Australia is required to address these concerns. From my own experience, starting my career as a lawyer and then at the New South Wales Bar with young children, it was already incredibly frustrating that conferences to exotic overseas holidays and ski trips, locations, all of those were tax deductible, but the real everyday cost of childcare was not and remains so high. The tax system is not gender neutral, and it's time our system caught up with the 21st century relating and the reality of working parents. COVID-19 threw into stark relief the inadequacy of the current policy suite at supporting families in Australia. Parents across the country were homeschooling their children. Many struggled without access to carers' leave and were without access to childcare. The government intervened to provide temporary relief through free childcare, which was welcomed by many parents. But it was a minefield, and some providers, for example, were unable to afford the rent or staff required to stay open in many areas. So there is a lot of complexity around this area, but if we've seen one thing, it's that the COVID recession impacted the jobs of women far more than male-dominated industries. And the budget response last October to this pink recession was unfortunately a very blokey budget, and it was heavily criticised. So it's now clearly squarely on the agenda for the Prime Minister and the government to address this in the May budget. In preparing the May budget, I urge the government to consider the Parenthood report, which delivers a blueprint for a comprehensive Australian parenting strategy post-COVID. The tools for achieving this include universal health and wellbeing support for parents and children through pregnancy and early years, a parental leave scheme that provides 1 year of paid leave to be shared equally between parents. Australia has one of the worst participation by fathers in taking parental leave. We need this to improve, and we need sufficient parental leave across both parents to ensure that it is not one parent, and generally women, who are disproportionately disadvantaged and disincentivised from returning to the workforce. And we need free and high-quality childhood education and care for all families. And of course, flexible and supportive workplaces with universal access to paid carers' leave for sick children. So paid parental leave is something that's very important. Australia has one of the least adequate parental leave schemes in the OECD. The average length of paid parental leave among OECD countries is 55 weeks, while Australia has 18 weeks. Paid parental leave in Australia is granted to one parent, the primary caregiver, whereas in other OECD countries it can be shared. More equitable paid parental leave schemes are important because they will encourage fathers into caring roles, improving their long-term bond with children, participation in unpaid work in households, and appreciation of the work in raising a child, and provide primary carers the opportunity to return to their career sooner and more sustainably. Childcare is commonly viewed as a child minding rather than early education of children, and that needs to change because some great gains can be done. We need an attention to women in the next budget, and I would encourage the Prime Minister to have an expenditure review committee, have better female representation on that committee to ensure an equitable budget.
I thank the member for Warringah.